champion in 2 strength sports and an IPF world champion powerlifter. Marty is also a national and world champion team coach. So today we're going to talk about training minimalism for size and strength. And in the bodybuilding world, one of the most iconic figures tied to training minimalism would be that of Dorian Yates. So Marty, let's talk about training minimalism and how it built some of the thickest physiques in IFBB history, such as Dorian Yates.
You really need to go back to the 80s when you have to remember Frank Zane won 3 Olympias with a 17-inch arm. Chris Dickerson won an Olympia with a 16-inch arm. The judging standards were so screwed up that Bertel Fox was routinely getting beaten by these little, Arnold once called Zane a chicken with 17-inch arms. Isn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
So the judging standards had to change, and they started appreciating the bigger guys. Yates came on at the right time. Dorian, when he first broke onto the scene, he was about 225, great condition, English hard guy, truly a tough nut. Had been influenced by Menser and the heavy-duty approach, but actually, when you really examined his training, he trained a hell of a lot more like a power lifter than he did Arthur Jones. Basically, Dorian's strategy was to work up to one all-out set in an exercise, usually with a couple forced reps because he was a bodybuilder, and then move on. He wasn't doing multiple top sets, and, Arnold, by comparison, I figured up at Arnold's peak, he was doing 700 sets a week. It was like a full-time job, right? He was double split, 6 days a week, training session in the morning, training session in the afternoon. That's so Yates and Menser and those guys came along, and they're like, we're going to train more like lifters. And Dorian's big breakthrough was when he appeared on the cover of Flex magazine, and he'd blown up from like 225 to 260, and he just blew everybody away because they'd never seen anybody that thick. But the thing about Dorian was he had the thinnest skin I'd ever seen in a big guy. So he had the size and he had the condition. Roger that.
Yeah, what were you telling me before we got on here that you were interviewing him and he was just so thin? You guys were eating together. You could just see every little detail in his jaw muscle and everything. I mean, it was paper thin.
I did 83 feature-length articles for Muscle and Fitness, Flex, Prime, back in the days that Muscle and Fitness was the top-selling bodybuilding publication in the world before the internet destroyed the magazine business. We had, 450,000 newsstand sales, 2 million grand total. I mean, it was a big damn deal. So I forget exactly which year it was. It was the last year before Dorian ripped his bicep. I thought he was at his peak. And Tom Dieters and Bob Wolf picked me to do the feature coverage on both the Arnold Classic and the Olympia. So I was sitting in the front row watching these guys. And then after the Olympia, where Dorian crushed everyone, his legs were incredible that year. Best calves I'd ever seen in my life. The next day, Sunday morning, they have a photo shoot. So I was assigned to do the photo shoot with Dorian, and I got to pick which body part. So naturally, Dorian being Dorian, I picked back. So Sunday morning, after he won the Olympia, we got together with, I think it was 3 photographers. I can't remember the guys' names off the top of my head, but we had like a 4-hour photo session with him, and I got to talk to him. It's a hell of a thing to win the Olympia on Saturday night, but you can't party because you got to stay tight for the photos Sunday, because in a lot of ways the photos are more important than winning is important. but a very small number of people are actually in the audience to see you that night. But those photos that they take, that goes out to your fans. So it was really important. He looked great. When I first pulled up, I knew him from before. He was eating a dry bagel, and he was so lean that everything in his skull you could see as he chewed. It was his skin looked like it was glowing. It was so thin. And he was gigantic too. His lats. He's the only guy I ever saw his lats hung. You know, there was so much beef on him that they just kind of hung down. So yeah, I kind of got him at his peak, and we talked about his training, and I thought he trained more like Ed Cohn than he did Mike Mentzer. Basically, go up to a top set, crush it. He'd have Leroy give him another forced rep or two. Boom, move on. 4 sessions a week, maybe hour and 10 minutes per session, right? And he's the best in the world at the time. That's not much training.
Yeah, and if you look at the way he trained, I've actually got blood and guts playing right now. He and Leroy are just smashing it. And like Dorian said, if you do it right, if you're using the intensity that I use, you know, on your all-out set, 6 or 8 reps and then 2 to 3 forced reps, you can't do another all-out set. You're spent. You got to move on to the next exercise.
Well, you can, but you're going to handle like 50 to 60% of your poundage. So, and what the hell good is that? To me, that's just cutting into your recuperation. I'm of that school too.
Well, you're also cutting into your energy reserves for, like, say you're doing like a flat bench. You do one all-out set. You know, if you just do that one set all out, yeah, you're blasted from that. But if you immediately move on to like an incline or something like that, you'll have a lot more energy for that movement rather than doing 2 to 3 all-out sets. By the time you get to incline, you're done. You've got no strength left.
Yeah, we actually started putting the incline on a different day than benching because the inclines always suffered. And we thought they were important, and we thought they deserved their own featured spot, right? Yeah, inclines always, you know, they were like the poor cousin because you always did them after benching, and when you were done benching, what we liked to do after benching was dumbbell benching, right? Or wide grip benching and narrow grip benching, more of the same type and kind rather than a completely different exercise. But getting back to the power bodybuilder guys, you know, that type training really is pure old school powerlifting. That's the way that you know, Cassidy and Chalet and Kowalski and Jim Estep, Jimmy Estep, all those guys, all the powerhouse, Jim Cash, Lamar, all the powerhouse guys, they had these tremendous physiques, and it was the same strategy. Hit a lift really hard and only hit it once a week. That's the other thing, you know, and that's the other thing that Dorian did too. He wasn't hitting muscles. Arnold hit muscles 3 times a week. Oh my God, can you imagine?
Well, that's how you guys started out, though. And as
Well,
time went
yeah, way back. Yeah,
you're
right.
back. And
Yeah.
then you cut it down to 2 times a week, and then finally 1.
Yep. As we got
And that's
stronger.
where you guys really started making the gains.
As we got stronger. Also, when you're dealing with the heavier lifts, it takes longer to recoup. It takes a hell of a lot less time to recoup from, you know, 5 sets of side laterals than it does from 5 sets of power cleans.
Right. I think the other thing that minimalism has taught us is that we don't have to spend all day in the gym, and we can actually do other stuff.
Yeah, and that there's an inverse proportional relationship between volume and intensity. And if you want to go the volume route, your intensity is going to suffer. And if you want to go the intensity route, you've got to hit the 100 and 2% effort in order to make it work. You can't say you're an intensity trainer and do 80% sets. It's not going to work. I mean, unless it's 80% for, 5 reps.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be an intensity trainer, you can't be submaximal. You got to put it out there.
So to take minimalism to, to the biggest extreme, I guess, in your latest articles, if you go to our site, ironcompany.com, you go to articles, go to Raw with Marty Gallagher, our latest articles are experiments in strength training minimalism. This is part 1 and 2, and in there you talk about a point in your life that your job only allowed you to train one day.
Oh, yeah.
And if it wasn't going to be on one day, you weren't going to train at all. So
Was that or not?
that's training one day a week, and you made great gains on that, right?
Yeah, it was that or nothing. Yeah, we all did. That was at Kenny Fantana's muscle factory in West Haven, Connecticut. And right now, I'm working with a bunch of neighborhood guys, and we can only get together to train once a week because these guys are blue-collar workers, and they got to, drive the mail truck and, the Pepsi truck and the construction equipment, and they don't have time to train during the week. They've got wives, families, kids. So we get together on Sunday for 2 hours. I put 10 lifters through, maybe 10 to 12 lifters through in 2 hours. We work up to 1 all-out top set, squat, bench, deadlift, send them on their way. Every one of them is making amazing progress, okay? But, they got me and Kirk Karwoski and Bob Myers breathing up their ass. I mean, you bring your game, you know what I mean?
What happens if you show up late over there?
You get locked out. Well, that's better than what Kirk wanted to do.
What did he want to do? Or should I do that?
You don't want to get into any prison sex stuff. I mean, come on.
We won't go there.
Let's keep it upstanding, okay? Thank you.
But you guys just did a meet. All
Yes,
those guys
we
that
did.
You're training. You went and did a meet, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, we did. I guess it's been a month anyway. I took seven of the guys in, and out of a cumulative of 57 attempts amongst 7 guys, we made 55.
Yeah.
Incredible consistency. Now, I called all the attempts, good coaching, but not only was there a consistency in the effort, we have signature techniques. All the boys squat the same, they bench the same, they deadlift the same. Nobody gets hurt. Everybody makes gains. And again, these are lifetime drug-free guys from the neighborhood, right? This is extraordinary results for ordinary people.
And it just so happens the way that they train, they do all the 3 lifts in one day, one single day.
Yeah.
That primes them for competition.
Oh man, they tear it up in competition. To them, a competition is an easy thing because in an actual powerlifting competition, it might stretch out over 5 or 6 hours. We compress it. They're doing all 3 of their lifts within 120 minutes. So when they go to a competition and got time to rest and relax between lifts, they're like, "Oh, this is so easy! Wow!" And whereas the guys who put their deadlifts on a different training day in competition, their deadlifts tend to go down because they're not used to squatting first. My guys in competition, all their deadlifts go up because they're very used to squatting first. So it's an interesting phenomena that those that stack all 3 lifts in the same day, when it comes to competition, it's like it's a walk in the park.
Right. That's right. Okay.
Let me just say one more thing. Think about it. It's a pretty profound thing when you can take a sampling of just average American dudes, strength train them. Those guys are probably time under tension, maybe, 40 minutes. I mean, we're pushing 10 to 12 guys through in 2 hours. That's not how much each guy is training, because each guy goes in turn, right? So their actual training time is probably 40 minutes. So with this super intense power training, one time a week for 40 minutes, we're making gains. Okay, this is heresy. This is the complete opposite of everything that's chic and in style. And again, it dates back to this idea of maximum intensity can create minimum volume. And we were forced into it, again, because of situational, the situations that these guys found themselves in. But after they were thrown into the deep end of the pool, they found out, damn, we're getting better. And I mean, we've been rolling with this for a couple years now. Some of these guys are turning into studs, for sure.
I think one of the most important takeaways from what you're doing with these guys and other guys is it works on just regular guys and girls. You don't have to be an elite athlete with superior genetics for this type of training to work.
No, but you have to exert up to and past your capacity. That's where the gains lie, and you have to learn how to do that safely, and you have to learn that there are different flavors of 102%, right? You don't have to crush a personal record every time you get into the gym, but whatever your particular level is on that day, you can work up to that. And, some days our capacities are enhanced, and other days they're diminished. But whether it's enhanced or diminished, we can work up to 100% of it, and that's how you can have a productive workout on an off day. Boom.
Yeah, and intensity is the key, absolute key. Intensity trumps volume.
Oh, no, wait. No, you shouldn't say that, because intensity will run its course after we find about 10 to 12 weeks, and at that point we like to shift the other direction. Say, let's get away from intensity for a while. So we'll go to usually we'll sync that up. We'll sync higher volume, more cardio, lighter eating, reducing body fat, July, August training, right? Getting as lean as light as possible, and then when the cold weather comes around, we're here in rural Pennsylvania, when the cold weather comes around, that's the perfect time. The food tastes better, you start eating more, get back to the intensity-based power training. So it's this beautiful ebb and flow. We don't stay intensity all year round, we alternate. But when we do volume, we're not trying to, we like to sync volume up with, lean out phases, right? Get in shape phases. You follow?
Yeah, your body's just got to adapt to just so many things, so you've always got to be changing it up.
Contrast is king.
Yeah.
That's the key. Contrast is king. You got to have about 30 valid training strategies in your quiver, your arrow quiver, and then you can pull them out, and they need to be sufficiently contrast. When one dries up, you need to pull out one that's sufficient contrast, right? Not one that's similar. You need to. The body wants to achieve hemostasis, normalcy, and we don't want it to. So, I think we've about rung that one out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Did you want to say anything else about your favorite videos of all time?
Well, I don't, honestly, I do not watch bodybuilding videos. Just not a fan, but I watch Dorian's, because Dorian's was like watching a lifter. It was like very close to the way Ed Cohn trains, and the great thing about the Blood and Guts video was you learned everything there was you needed to learn about high intensity lifting just by looking. There was no words. It was just Leroy screaming at Dorian the whole time, and which we love, but it was learn the lift by looking. There's no need. The worst instruction is 15 minutes of talk and then a 2-minute demo, right? Give me the 15-minute demo and the 2-minute talk. And that's what Dorian did. He showed you every important lesson about high-intensity bodybuilding training just by watching him do those lifts. How he did them, the precision, the range of motion, how he took it past capacity, which in bodybuilding, that's what you need to do. And he had the perfect training partner, Leroy, and he was just as responsible for Dorian's progress as anybody. And that, he used to travel with Dorian, and they were quite a formidable pair.
And I don't think with Leroy as a training partner, I don't think he had any choice but to make the extra couple of forced reps.
Right. Well, Bobby Myers was like that for Kirk and I.
And yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
you can hear him in Kirk's squat videos. He's the guy with the booming voice in the background, and he's always saying something. And the videos are a little old now, so we're sometimes trying to decipher what he's saying.
No, they were incomprehensible back then. We think one went, "Your mother needs new snow tires." I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, the one he's saying, "Pack your bags, Shane," and I thought, first of all, I didn't know he was saying Shane. I couldn't understand. And then I asked Bob, I said, "What are you saying there?" He says, "Pack your bags, Shane." And that was a guy,
Shane
evidently, that Kirk was coming up, he was going to compete against in the next couple of weeks.
Shane Hammond is our good friend, who is a great Olympic lifter, and Shane had a 10-14 squat. And Kirk's, I think, was, 1,002 or 3. So Kirk was a little behind Shane, but Shane was a 360-pound super heavy. But Kirk didn't care. He wanted to be better, so he was going to pack your bag, Shane.
Yeah.
That never happened, but yeah.
Hey, Bob was like Arnold with all the one-liners in the background.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
All right. Anything else on blood and guts or
Yeah, I don't think so.
minimalism?
We're of the school of doing fewer things better. And it seems like, in fact, I just was writing an article about this today. It seems like in this day and age of Google, where everybody knows everything about everyone, it seems like everybody is a mile wide and an inch deep, whereas the school that I represent and the school that I'm from, we're like an inch wide and a mile deep, right? That it's I think that's a good way to put it. With minimal, our training menu is so reduced. Our signature techniques, it's less is better if lesser is crazier.
And it obviously works. I mean, look at the guys that you've trained, the world record holders. Look at the Spec Ops guys you trained, some of the best in the world.
No, the best in the world.
The best in the world, absolutely. Yeah. And, this is a part of what they've adapted into their... And they don't have time to train. That's the problem that they have. They're doing 50 other things or more. And this is a very small part of what they're able to do, and they've got to just cram it in there.
However,
effectively.
They too alternate between times of no time and times of unlimited time where they're bored out of their minds. So when they have no time, we give our tier 1 guys these little compressed 1 time a week training regimens that we were just talking about. But when they're deployed and they're bored out of their minds during the day, well, that's when we give them the volume programs, right? Because they got the time, they got nothing else to do, and it's like, okay. And I'll have Jimmy Steele over at Penn. He usually will work up, or Brad is another volume trainer. Some guys love volume. They just love to train. They love to be in the gym. That's their thing, and they're very good, and they're friends of mine. And so when the guys have time in their hands and want to swing back to a volume thing, great. Well, we'll give you a big-ass volume program. There's no problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way they go from no time to too much time.
All right, very good. Well, why don't we close this out? this has been a great conversation here about training minimalism for sure.
Indeed.
All right, so check out Marty's weekly column, Raw with Marty Gallagher, at ironcompany.com.
And buy my book.
You can also find his books, Purposeful Primitive and Strong Medicine. Those can be purchased at Iron Company or on Amazon.
What else?
Finally,
we got other stuff.
Comments. We're going to try to do this once a week. So if you guys have any questions or comments for the next one that you guys would like to have us go over, just mention those.
Make them intelligent and erudite.
Yeah, exactly. Help a brother out, right? All right, so that's it. Thank you, Marty.
Auf Wiedersehen.